Welcome to J Lowe Artist. Thanks for being here. We're going to do a variety of things with colored pencils. We're going to do some colored pencil drawing. All this does is prepare you to doing painting. Color mixing, color theory, values, creating form with color. Eventually, when we start painting, it's just going to help you out. So come along with me and let's practice a little bit with colored pencils.
So today we're using Prismacolors. And you should have that little click eraser, the little vinyl one standing by. We may or may not use it, but it's always good to have it close by. So I'm just going to set that aside. We've got our colors. We've got our reference here. Nice reference, single light source, light and dark. We're going to do this on brown. However you want to sketch this on. Sometimes I like to use white charcoal. When you're on a dark board like this, white charcoal is always helpful. You can also use Prismacolor if you want. The only difference is that Prismacolor is a little more difficult to get rid of if you mess things up. So when we're sketching out, let's start out with just figure out where the top is. Here's my top. I want to leave myself a little bit of room up at the top, but not a ton, a little bit. And the chin is just about in the middle of our page, maybe a little bit lower than the middle of our page. And so now I've just established the size of head. It's a kid. And one thing I want to do is go over some basic proportioning when dealing with children. Now, we did adult proportions where you know that the eye is in the middle of the head. That is true about kids as well. But things become a little bit larger. Look at the nose and the eyes. The nose is a little smaller. The eyes are a little bit bigger. And so if you want your drawings to look kind of childlike, you increase the size of the eye. Look at some of the new comic styles that are around. Manga and anime. Big eyes, your characters start to look more childlike. So I'm just going to go in the middle and say, okay, here's where my eyes are going to be, somewhere in this area, and make just kind of a little shape for an eye. Same thing, you've got the eye space, one eye distance in between the eyes. And so if this is the width of your eye, then this eye is going to be about the same. Because she's at an angle, it might change slightly. The nose, and again, the nose is a little smaller and a little closer to the eyes. And I'm just going to delineate the lips a little bit, just these little triangular shapes. It's not important exactly what I'm doing right now to get everything exact proportionate, but I'm trying to get close. We have to adjust it anyway. The flower, nobody cares if the flower is exactly perfect, but we want to get it close. So you just kind of say, well, you know, there's a little bit more than an eye distance in between the eye and the flower. If I were to take that eye and turn it up there, so you can kind of guess. Kind of guess how big that flower is going to be. I'm just blocking in where they're going to go. This is all I'm doing here is just figuring out where things go. I want to be as close as I can, but I don't want to stress too much if it's not exactly perfect. Hair. Now here's another thing. I have to worry if it's exactly perfect. Some people like to get everything exact. I do. But I've learned that nobody has your reference to look at. So what if it's slightly off? Try to be as close as you can. And basically that's it. I kind of moved her a little bit closer to the left side. Good composition. a little bit more room in the front of the head. Just gives her a little bit more breathing space, a little less towards the back. Just good composition. Now, a couple of trains of thought. You can start, because this paper is kind of a medium tone, a medium grade, a mid-key kind of value. You can go start with a dark pencil, or you can start with the light pencil. Now the violet, you kind of have to anticipate what's going to happen with your colors on your color here. Violet over brown, because there's some red in that brown, it'll make the purple kind of come through. But there's also yellow in that brown, and it's going to tone out some of that purple. So you're really not sure what's going to happen. Sometimes I like to have a piece standing by that I can just practice on and go, oh, I see what's going on with that. So if you're going to do this on mat board, have a little piece of mat board close by that you can try it out. For this, it's not that big of a deal. I'm just going to go ahead and just start out here with this purple. This is just violet. And start drawing in some of those darker tones with the violet. The other thing is that when we're doing color, light is your warm colors, shadow is your cool colors. Traditionally, I mean, you can change them. The drawing I just finished was actually opposite. Cool colors were in the light because the light was coming from the window. It was very soft, and the incidental light, or the reflected light, was coming from the fireplace. Therefore, it was very warm. But rule of thumb is cool colors in the shadows, warm colors in the light. The eyes are very important to me. So I like to start out with the eyes. You know, you kind of gauge the success of your drawing on what people look at. So the emphasis area. I think people look at the eye and think, you know, that's an important part. One thing though, when you're doing children, the tendency is to want to make those eyes a little bit bigger than they are, which is okay if you want to do that, but you got to be a little careful about that so they don't look cartoony. And if you're going to do like highlights, you may want to leave those highlights out. Or you could have your white pencil standing by and go ahead and draw in some highlights, so that you establish both where your darks go and where your lights go. And if you wanted to, you could have started with your white pencil, with your highlights. You could go in there that way. But it's totally up to you how you feel comfortable about doing this. I'm going to get rid of some of that charcoal. Sometimes that charcoal can get in the way. Just a little bit, because some of it I want to keep in there, but some of it I want to get rid of it. And hopefully you're thinking of proportioning as you draw. Things like the nostrils right below the tear ducts. So go straight down from the tear ducts, and there's your nostrils. Even in kids that happens. As we get older, our nose gets bigger. So the cool thing about pencils is you can use your pressure to establish darks and lights. If you don't want it that dark, you just don't put that much pressure on it. And I always draw lightly to begin with anyway, because you can always go darker. And utilize your paper too. There is a grayness, a value to the paper. It's kind of a mid-key value. Go ahead and utilize that. Think to yourself, oh, well, that's dark enough, or it's not dark enough. Add more darkness. I always start with the ring around the eye, that your iris part is much darker. Then go to the pupil. And I'm not convinced that there's a perfect recipe for anything. I think sometimes you just kind of gotta feel your way through it and just say, hey, you know what? I'm gonna try this. If it works, great. If it doesn't, it might work somewhere else. What do you think of that purple over the brown? I think it's a lovely color. You could just as easily have used indigo blue or even a dark green would even work. There's a lot of kind of reflected light going on inside of her flesh tones there, on her cheek, around there too. And you may want to just leave that out for now. Get add a different color to it later on. Once you establish where some of those darker areas are, you may want to go in with your white pencil or your cream. If you've got a cream, sometimes that is best. And do the lights. That will help you to get your proportions as well. So you've established the light side and the dark side. Then you just start adding color like crazy. And because this is on black and white, we're not influenced by the local color. We can do whatever we want to. And remember, we're creating artwork here, not photographs. And according to what you would like to do as an artist, you can alter or change that just a little bit. Sometimes you have to stop and say, well, what do I want to achieve here? What's my goal? Ultimately, you've got to please yourself. That's what it's all about. Art should be personal. It should be not only enjoyable, but it should be some kind of a personal reaction to something. So what I'm doing here with my white is I'm just going to pick out some of the highlights, like the hair. Sometimes the first color you layer in is the one that's going to stay there the longest, especially if you try to erase it. It's always going to be there. So throw in some light. I'm not pressing very hard. This is easily easily changed if I need to. Little flower petals, there's some light along the flower petals. You can put that in. Again, if it's not quite right, it's okay. Nobody's going to come over and say, oh, those flower petals are too big or too small or not in the right place. We might be spending a little bit too much time on getting the structure here. But when you're doing your final piece, that extra time might be the thing that saves it. You do want to try to get as much information as you can, as quickly as you can. Dark shapes, just throw them in with that purple or blue, whatever color you're using, or green. Remember, it's just a dark color, because importance is that we do values, not so much color. This is kind of like drawing fingers when you do the petals of the flowers. I know that's weird, but the idea is that you're not drawing every little petal. You're just drawing the lights and darks. And as you go through, all of a sudden your viewer will distinguish those lights and darks as petals. So don't think of them as individual petals, just lights and darks. So all I did was darks and lights, and you start going, oh, it's a flower, I get it. Let me use a little bit of blue in those shadows. This is just true blue. So all through those shadowy areas, a little bit of blue. Don't be afraid to leave some of the brown showing through, though. I mean, we don't have to cover up everything. What color should we do her eyes? Should we do those blue too? A little bit of blue over that purple. Even if you go over the white just a little bit, it's okay. Doesn't have to be very dark. Maybe a little bit of yellow into the light areas. You've got that canary yellow, or that whatever it's called. It's kind of a lemony yellow. That might be too bright, but I'm gonna try it. You know, what can it hurt? Oh, that's nice. Against the brown, it's really nice. Just a little bit in there. That'll just warm it up. Now you've got your warm side and your cool side. And if you go over some of that blue and you think, uh-oh, it's turned green, that's okay. Bless you. A little bit into the light areas of the hair, or into the flower even. You could do a little bit in the flower. I'm just putting a little bit where that, I think that light is kind of luminescent and kind of goes through it. What's going to happen if you go over the purple with the yellow? Nothing. It kind of tones it down, makes it go brown. I'm going to turn to some light blue. There's a little bit of light blue that I get a little bit in the eye. Just a little bit in the eye. Light blue. Because your eyes are never white anyway. And then I'll go over some of that with the white. And it'll lighten it up. I might even want some of that in the shadowy areas, like in the reflected light. A little bit up in there. Maybe in the flowers. You just start kind of blocking in color. It's not such a big deal if it's not perfect. Now, you need contrast. What are you going to do for contrast? If you have an indigo blue is great for contrast. I want to do a little bit of black just here and there, not everywhere, just here and there. And so I've got my black. I'm going to start out with her eyes, especially the pupils of her eyes. They're very dark. And just look what that black does. All of a sudden it just like, pow. Maybe eyelashes. Maybe a little bit here and there in the iris. Just enough to get that contrast. Just need that really dark area. I'll probably end up going back over this with some dark purple or indigo blue, because black by itself is not a pleasing color. It's more of just a value. But just in the darkest areas. Any place that I think, wow, that's really dark. And you don't need much. The beauty of this, just a tiny bit. And it just brings out the contrast and makes things pop. Corners of the mouth, that's a good place to put just a little bit. Because you want to have that variation between dark and light, and the subtleties in between. See what that contrast does? It just makes it come out, pop. So for the face, that's about all I need there. Just a little here and there. Maybe some of these other places, again, just a little. Where it's the darkest. A little bit of contrast is really going to improve your drawing. And it doesn't have to be everywhere. Like in the hair, I'll just do a little bit here and there. Because I know I'm going to come back into it with indigo blue or dark purple or both. There's plenty more places that I could do this in. Because of time, I want to get the face done. If I missed my scrap, if she moves on me, or if she's a model, she has to go somewhere, she's going to move. So I want to get all that information in as quickly as I can. Then if she moves, I've got enough that I can remember what it was like. So then I've done my black. Now I'm going to do my indigo blue over the top of that. Here's my indigo blue over the top of that black. You don't have to do it everywhere. But that's just going to make that much better. Hopefully you've been practicing drawing eyes and doing those little highlights. It's my indigo blue or my dark purple, whichever one you're using. There isn't a dark purple in this 24 set. There is an indigo blue. This is why I like the 72 set, it's because it gives you more colors to choose from. But there's also colors in the 72 that I will never use. Any of those metallic ones, I'll just pull them out and give them to my grandkids. I'll never use them. Now that indigo blue over the top of that black, just gonna make it still goes dark, but it's just a lovely darkness. It's not black. There's a little bit of purple under there that we started with. And a little bit of yellow. If I go over that with my indigo blue, it's going to turn a little green. So you get all these subtle colors just kind of happening. That's nice. Nothing wrong with that. That pressure becomes very important when you're wanting to go darker with your colors. A little pressure. Those colors will start to blend as well. Now that I've got my darks, I'm going to hit my lights again. Really, that cream, if you got a cream, that cream, the yellow ochre, the poppy red, they're all just your flesh tones, and they'll be just fine in the lights. You might want to do a little bit of red into this. That poppy red, it's kind of an orangey red. A little bit of that, especially in things like the nose, the ears. You can mix that with the purple. A little bit just on the edges. A little bit of red. It's hard to see. This camera is not picking it up. It's much brighter back here. A little bit of that yellow makes it a little orangey. You're getting those subtle changes between white, yellow, red. I like it when the camera's having a hard time picking up on the colors, because it's like, yes, your eye is going to do the same thing. It's going to go, wow, there's a lot of color there. I don't know what I see. But what's important is the values. And those lights, they need that equal amount of pressure. That indigo blue is almost like a secret weapon, because you really, even with the black, you think, oh, there's just not enough contrast, and all of a sudden, boom. If you've got a cream colored pencil, that cream colored pencil by itself makes a lovely light in the flesh tones. Kind of a muted yellow. And your white can get kind of chalky. Just try to keep your contrast strong, so your dark's darks and your light's light. Just use color, whatever color you feel like. Too bad there isn't a hand in here. Good practice. Drawing hands and faces. This indigo blue is really great for the shadows. Hopefully you guys are using that and liking it. You're probably noticing too that I'm really not paying much attention to the flowers. Again, those are, people know they're there. They're not the focal point. That face, those eyes, that's your focal point. That's your emphasis. Be aware of knowing what your audience is looking at. If I had more time, I'd probably explore a little bit more color within those flowers. But there should be some colors happening in there that you didn't even plan on. Colors mixing with colors. Try some different colors. And this is mulberry. Just on a whim, I'm kind of throwing it into some of those shadowy areas. Even though mulberry is kind of reddish, it still has a very cool tone to it. I throw some of that in there. Just a little bit. The mulberry over that poppy red is really pretty. You may want to, and if your contrast isn't coming out as strong as you want it to, you may consider some of that paint. I'd probably paint a little bit in the nose and maybe little shines in the eye. Not a lot. Maybe up here on the forehead. A little bit of that gouache, tempera white paint. That would really increase our contrast, really make it pop. So she's got some lace and stuff down in there. I am not following anything. I'm just going, oh, texture, little scribbles. Yes, ma'am. That's why I'm hurrying as fast as I can. Make sure that you sign this. Good place to sign it might be over here by the shoulder or right here in the crook of that hair. Maybe down here. Don't sign it right on the edge, but just somewhere there that's not too obtrusive. Thanks for drawing with me today. I hope you have a lovely day. And remember, art makes life better. Yes, it does.